Hey everyone, this is Philip Anthony, and today we're going to be talking about 5 behaviors that will negatively impact your college planning business in the next 12 months. And what I did to create these 5 behaviors is a lot of college planners have always asked me is, Philip, how did you go from 0 to over $1.2 million in less than 12 months as a college planner? And I always tell them, here's exactly what I did, and I'll kind of break out the step-by-step directions. And what I also kind of did was I reverse engineered all the mistakes that I made, or all the mistakes that I could have made. Let me do this over. Hey everyone, this is Philip Anthony, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 behaviors that you must absolutely avoid if you want to become a 7-figure status college planner. And the way I came up with these is I took basically the top 5 things that I did over the last 12 months that helped me reach $1.2 million in college planning revenue over the last 12 months, and then I just took the opposites of those, and that's how I came up with these top 5. And I think they speak to one of the most difficult things to do as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, and that is to perform at a high level and to do it consistently. And so to talk about these, I want you to write them down, but more importantly than writing them down is I want you to instill these in your mind. Read them every day if you have to, but you do whatever it takes to make sure that these become implemented concepts within your business. So let's get right into them. So the first one that you want to think about is only relying on one marketing tactic. Only relying on one marketing tactic. And what I mean by this is that if your entire business model is based off of, let's say, a particular direct mail flyer, or a particular postcard, or a particular internet advertising tactic, then your business has a profound risk of failing. And this is so important to recognize this because I'll meet so many college planners and I'll say, what do you do to market? And they'll say, oh, word of mouth. And I'll say, what else do you do? Well, I don't need to do anything else because that word of mouth is already effective for me. Well, here's the challenge with that, is you don't know what's going to happen next month. You won't know what's going to happen 3 months from now, 12 months from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. So one of the most valuable things that you can do to insulate your business from market risk is to have multiple tactics that work, and different marketing channels have different pros and cons. And you have to understand, what channels are going to work best within your industry. And so, for instance, you take billboard advertising, for example. That's a very poor medium for college planners. And one of the biggest reasons why, it's because billboards, and this is the same case for display advertising and Google AdWords, I look at those marketing channels as really methodologies to harvest demand and not necessarily to create demand. And so, for instance, if you're already a well-established company like a Target or a Best Buy, and there's already demand for your products and services, then yeah, you can simply put your logo or put your business on a billboard, and people who are already interested in a product that you sell will simply see your name, and that might drive them to make a purchasing decision. But if you are, for us college planners, many families don't actually know what a college planner is, and so you need to pick a marketing channel that will give you an opportunity to really educate your prospects about who you are, what you're about, and what you can provide for them. And for instance, postcards may not be an effective way to do that because there isn't enough real estate on the postcard to really build a narrative for yourself, right? So again, you want to have multi-level, multi-step direct mail, internet marketing, word of mouth, radio, all the different channels, so that you have multiple ones to choose from, so if one doesn't work, that you're not going to be basically without revenue for that month. So again, that's the first behavior that you want to avoid, which is only being almost like a one-trick pony, and you got to be very careful about that. Number 2 is not investing enough money in lead generation, and this perhaps is one of the most important things that you can do is to really get your lead generation down correctly. And really one of the first mistakes I see with lead generation is not really understanding how to create leads. In other words, sort of just leads come to you as maybe a consequence of some referrals or some parents who told some of their friends and some of their family members. That's not an effective marketing strategy to build a very profitable and high income level office for yourself. Is you have to have marketing and lead generation systems, and there's really two things that I want you to think about here, or actually three things. Number one, it's going to be having a front end piece that creates consistent high quality leads, which we'll talk about in a second here, what I define as a high quality lead. Number two is a warm prospecting list. In other words, you should have a list of all your prospects who maybe haven't hired you yet, but they're still thinking about it, or maybe they're not ready to buy yet. And I'll ask a lot of college planners, tell me about your prospecting list, and the first thing they'll tell me is, oh, I have 4,000 prospects on my list, or I have 400 prospects on my list. And to me, the size of your list is less important than the response of your list, right? So in other words, I want to know a question, which is, I want to know the answer to this question. Within the last 12 months, what percentage of your prospects have opened your emails or responded to an offer within your email, have emailed you back? And if you have 4,000 people in your email list and you email them and say, hey, email me back feedback for this article, and only one person does, then that means that you don't have a very good mailing list, and that mailing list needs to be reactivated. And there's tactics, of course, to reactivate a mailing list if you feel like your entire email list is dead. But a highly responsive warm prospect list is always an indication of a very strong marketing system for your business, right? And then of course number three here is then obviously a highly responsive client or customer list. And this also speaks to how well you're doing as far as servicing your clients and taking care of them, but you got to have a really responsive client list that that responds to you when you send them communication. So again, the first one is being a one-trick pony and only having one marketing tactic that works. Number two is not investing in lead generation. The third behavior is not really understanding who your target market is. And this idea has been sort of beat to death, and it's unfortunate because 95% of business owners get this wrong, and as college planners we're no different than this. And what I mean by that is, if you think your ideal market is families that make over $100,000 a year, that have $400,000 in assets, with kids that are looking to go to top school, and that's your idea of a target market, that's not a really good specific definition. So for instance, if someone were to ask me, Philip, who's your target market? This is how I would answer it. I would say, my target market, of course, with high income, with enough assets to afford my services, but I would get more specific. I would say my target market, it's those parents who, before coming to any kind of informational event that I offer, thought that the best opportunity available for their kids was perhaps going to a JC or to a community college because they didn't think it was affordable, and that they really want to learn how this process works, but they're just really concerned about the cost, and they feel lost in the process, and they have a lot of anxiety about how they're going to pay the debt. They have a lot of anxiety about student loans and having their kids get in debt, and they have a lot of anxiety about how they're going to pay for multiple kids within their family to have an opportunity. And as you get really specific and you understand exactly who your prospects are, it's going to give you the insight necessary to create great headlines, great subheadlines, really benefit-driven bullet points within your sales copy that's going to be able to persuasively overcome the necessary objections to move them to a place of action, which of course in our case needs to be pulling out their wallet and giving you money. So again, you got to be very careful about that, not knowing who your prospects are. Number 4 here that I want to talk about is not knowing how to sell. And this is extremely important. Is in order to sell, you really have to understand what's going on in your prospect's mind. You have to build rapport rapport, you have to build trust, you have to be able to really capture their attention and to create a environment where they feel comfortable telling you the intimate details necessary to build pain and to push them to a place to where they say yes. So persuasion and influence and understanding the motivation and the psychology behind why people buy is your blueprint for becoming a powerfully persuasive sales professional. So if you want to learn how to do sales, then you definitely need to take a look at some of my persuasion training where I can work with you on a more intimate basis on learning how to sell. But selling and understanding the structure and the psychology of sales is perhaps one of the most profitable investments of your time and energy and money that you could possibly make. And number 5 here, last but not least, is not taking action. Not taking action. And this behavior is I would say, perhaps the most detrimental of all, because not taking action has a lot to do with either number 1 is you're just to kind of, cut to the chase here, it could be just you're lazy. You're not willing to get up and take the necessary action, right? And so if you feel this issue, or maybe you're comfortable with the amount of money you're making right now, then you've got to come up with compelling reasons why it's important that you increase your business and that you take your business to the next level and that you do what you need to do. And if you're not doing that, then again, you can learn all the information on the planet, but if you're not going to take action on it, then it's going to be pointless for you, right? And then this tends to be the other reason why I see a lot of college planners not take action, is they're just so busy in their business. And I can tell you, myself, for instance, I have about 4 businesses within my college planning business. I have 2 other businesses I currently operate, and if I can find the time to implement marketing and marketing strategy within my business, so can you. And the number 1 reason why is that you may not have the time is because you don't have effective time management systems within your daily routines, and you don't have effective time economics. So if that is where you're at and that's a challenge for you, then you need to definitely look at some of my time management technologies that I think will be highly effective for you. So there you go. Those are the 5 behaviors that you must avoid in order to become a 7-figure college planner, and I hope they were useful for you. And stay tuned, and I look forward to continuing to coach you and train you and help you achieve the business of your dreams.